All right, so we are ready to start UV mapping, but first I think I'm going to just make sure that I've got some of my objects set up a little bit better here. So I want to check my lighting and stuff. So I'm selecting this glass object here, and I'm going to go to my materials and create a new one and title it glass. And then I'm just going to take the transmission and bump it way up, and the roughness and bring it down. And that'll give me my glass. And then I also made my front door a separate object, which is going to help later on when it comes to if I want to automate the door, make it slide on its own, that kind of thing. And the way I'm going to do that is, one, you can select each individual face. If you've got them all joined to something else, you can go to edit mode, grab the faces, and just take each individual face and break them off of the object by selecting them, right-clicking, and separate selection, and that'll make it its own object. But mine, it's all one object still, so I can just apply glass to it as well. Okay, cool. My frames, I'm gonna make a new material here as well, and I'm gonna make them black. Call it black frame. And since this is just going to be using color, you can use metalness and stuff too if you want to, but I'm just going to use color for mine. I'm fine with that. And then I can select the frames here. And I believe if I look for frames, glass frames here, you can see that all of these objects are separate. And I just want to find out, make sure I don't grab the door frame, right? So whichever one, that door frame is fine. I don't want that one. So I want this one. This one, this one, this one, and this one, and this one, and then Control J. And then I can apply just a material to it. Okay. So those are kind of the last two things. I also created a texture on the roof that I baked in already using the same techniques we've already discussed. And it is now time to get to UV mapping. So, I'm going to select objects here and UV map them. So this object is broken into 4 different pieces, and I can join them all together and then UV unwrap them and make them into all one object just to keep things simple. So I'm gonna go Control J to make it all one object. And then I'm gonna go to my UV editing here, clear off this image here, use my numpad decimal point to zoom in here. If you don't have a numpad, you can go View, Frame Selected, and that will bring you into this. And then I'm going to change my view to a basic rendered view. And I'm going to tab over and hit A, and you'll see that these are UV maps that are right on top of each other. So if I select, go to my face selection tool here and select that face, it's there. That face, it's in the same spot. That face, it's in the same spot. And that face, it's in the same spot. I do not want that. So with this specific one though, I might want to do something a little bit different. So if I tab on this and hit A, whoops, object mode, select the object, hit tab, and then A to select everything, which it's all selected. The frames, I'm okay with leaving them sharing a UV map, maybe, but I'm gonna go ahead and use Smart UV Project here, set a boundary of 0.01, okay. And that gives me these 4 shapes. So go to my face selecting here, grab this face, shift, select these 4 faces. Those are my 4 faces. G to grab, move out of the way. And then I'm going to just select all of this and scale it way down because we are going to be using just white on those frames. If you were going to make those out of wood or something, I would maybe have them be a little bit larger than that, so that, well, larger than that, much larger than that actually. But since I'm just going to be making them white, I don't care. So I'm going to grab these and I'm going to maybe stack them. So let me just grab this one and put it here, and grab this one and put it right here. and then grab them all and put it right there and hit S for scale and scale it out. Okay, all looks good. And then I'm going to do a new UV map here, and I'm going to make this one 2K. So I can just use a star times 2, and then star times 2 to make it 2K. Then hit OK, and that gives me a new UV map here. This is, showing how to do the ones that have frames on them already. The other ones are going to be a little bit more simple. Oh, and I can see, if you're ever noticing like little flickering going on here, that to me tells me that I have 2 of these objects. Floor old is still in here, so I need to move this down to my old materials. There we go. Now I shouldn't have that. Okay, so back to this. Tab over. We're going to go to export UV layout. We'll export the UV layout. I'll put it in my textures folder, which I'm going to create within my Vorgal 2023, and create a new folder, call it textures, prelim, because I'm going to make another textures folder later on, and Solidus is fine there, export UV layout. Okay, cool. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pull images from my portfolio and use those to apply in Photoshop. So let me just get those pulled up in Photoshop real quick. All right, so here they are. We've got my blue, my red, my black, and the white one. Okay, cool. So then the next thing we do is we open the textures UV map here. So let's go to for some reason it didn't export, so let's go back to Blender real quick here and select all of these objects, making sure everything is selected. Just hit A over there is fine too. And then UV, export UV layout. And then I'm going to put that into textures preliminary, call it that, export layout. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, it wasn't exporting because I have invalid characters in there. So I got to just delete those 2 and then go ahead and hit export UV layout. As long as everything is selected, it should work properly. So let's look at it now. File, open, ... We go to our location. And there it is. So with this, we open it up and we pull in our artwork. So I go ahead and hit V and just drag and drop it. Or probably the best thing to do here is actually resize this right now. So image size, and then I'll drop this down to like 150 here, and that should lower the resolution some, which just makes it easier to work with when I transform it over here. And then I go Control T to transform, and I bring it to the proper size. Another thing I want to think about is if there's a specific order to these images, you want to make sure that they map out properly in Blender. So the way you can do that is, okay, do I want this red one to be in the top left there? And if I go back to Blender here, we can check to see where each one of these is by doing the face selection. So if I just select that face, no, it's not that one. No. Okay. So I want this one to be the blue one. I want this one to be the red one. I want this one to be the black one. And I want this one to be the white one. It's just a personal preference. So This one up here is actually supposed to be the blue one. So if I switch over here, and then I can put this one down to right there. Okay. And then I can pull this one out here and I can go to image size and make it 150. Okay. And then the black one, I don't remember where it was. The black one's supposed to be this one, which is, yeah, right there. So Control T to transform. Let me just pull this window up a little bit more. I like having both of them. Okay, so transform it, make it fit the box. Don't worry too much about whether it looks distorted here, because it won't look distorted because we did measure everything properly in Rhino. So these could be a little bit off. Okay, enter. Then I can close them when I'm done. I'm not going to save the changes because I don't want to rescale them. And then we've got two more here. Control T to transform, and I'll bring this white one right here. You're getting the idea, I'm sure. And we just want it to fit as well as possible. You can turn the snapping on too, that sometimes helps with this. Or sometimes it gets in the way. I didn't apply that transform. Used to be just step backwards. Nah, didn't do it. Dang it. All right, so once you get that all laid out the way you want, what I like to do next is just make the rest of it all white. So if I go to my layers here, I can delete the bottom one. That's got our lines on it because we don't need those. And then G for my paint bucket, and just use a nice white color on a blank layer that we put at the bottom. Okay. And then we can flatten the image. Okay. And then File, Save As, Artwork Solace 3.png, call it UV, save it, okay. And then when we go back to our Blender file here, we create a new material for our object. So we have all of them selected, we're in object mode, we go to materials, we remove this material, we add a new one. That new material, click here, go to image texture, okay, open, and textures preliminary, and we'll do this one, open. All right, so we can see we've done it. And if I go back to modeling here and look at it, the other thing to watch for is to make sure that it is all right side up, so you've got things going the right direction. If not, you can go back to Photoshop and rotate things before closing out of it, or you can go back to your UV editing, tab over, hit A, select a face. If you want to select a face here on the edit mode, click on like this face, and then hit R for rotate and go 180. And that'll flip things upside down too. So that one was upside down. It looks better now. This one is also upside down. So R for rotate, 180. And you can see it's working. So they're all upside down actually. And for me, it's a little harder for you to tell, but yeah, they're all upside down. Cool. So that is UV mapping kind of in a nutshell. And I'm going to go ahead and continue to do that with all of my objects, and or not all of my objects, but at least all of my paintings, so that we've got them all here. But I'm going to speed through it real quick. So the process is just rinse and repeat kind of deal. All right. Thank you. Okay, so it's looking pretty good. I think what we're going to do is let's put it into ray traced real quick here, just to have a look to see how it's rendering out. All right, and it's looking pretty good. I'm feeling like it's a little blown out, so I'm going to go up to the top here and search for light and find my light source here. Click on the bulb right here. And I'm going to lower the strength down, maybe to 60. Okay, it's a little bit more natural. You can create better lighting by actually adding more lights to your scene. But those of you who don't have skylights, I would definitely quickly just go to a top view up here, put it into wireframe, zoom back out, and throw in a couple of Shift A, light, area lights, and G, grab it. I'll put it in the middle here, and S for scale. And then we want to go into a frontal view here. GZ, G for grab, Z for grab on the Z axis. And then I'm going to place the light there. And my area light's set at a power of 10 right now. Yours might be different. And then I'm going to go Shift D for duplicate. And then let's do Y. Go one up this way. And then Shift D, Y, bring one down this way. Shift D, X, and I'll put one right here. And Shift D, X, and I'll put one over here. Then let's go into our camera view. And then we'll go to View, Cameras, Frame Selected, or Frame Bounds, sorry. And then View over here, Camera to View. And then I'm actually going to find something like one of my artworks that I can grab onto. And then I will go to standard view here, just to check out the scene. And then I kind of want to change the camera settings a little bit here. So let me just grab my camera edge. So I just clicked on the edge of the camera. You can see it's barely on the edge of this screen here. Probably see it better if I, no. And then I'm going to zoom out just by toggling, see, whoa, fisheye, to about 23, 22. And look for that view I want. Again. Okay. This is looking pretty good to me. And then if I want to do a rendering of this view, I can kind of bump up the resolution a little bit on it. And then we can, in real time, check to see how we like these lights. So maybe I bump them up to 100. Yeah, that adds some nice light to the room. And I'm going to lower the balances actually to 80. Gives it a little bit more dramatic shadows. You can see. Okay, and I'd probably want to match those properties for the other lights, but looking pretty good here. So that is it for this part.